How's it going? My name is Mike and this is Lachlan, and today we're going to be doing pork spare ribs. I'm going to be showing you the whole entire process from meat preparation to fire building to heat control and eventually finished product. So let's get started. All right, first thing we need to do is start the fire. I like to get the fire going using charcoal briquettes just because it lights easy and it builds a good base for the wood to get going off of. This is the unit we're going to be using. This is a my own home built side firebox type smoker, and pretty simple. Just it's got a grate here, exhaust here, heat down there. And the way it works is heat is built from the fire, comes up, warms the meat, also gives that the smoke flavor, and then exits out the chimney. Heat control is done via the air inlet. So if I want a hotter fire, I give it more air. I want a colder fire, I close it off. The ideal heat range for doing barbecue is around 200 to 350 degrees. When doing pork spare ribs, I like to keep it around the 250 range. As you can see, it's winter. So keeping the fire warm is a little bit more difficult in colder temperatures. On this sort of smoke, I usually try to guesstimate right around, for every pound of meat, you figure about an hour's worth of cook time. So I'm doing a 4-pound spare rib. So you can guesstimate it's going to be 4 hours. I tend to go towards the 5-hour mark just because it makes the meat more tender and pulls off the bone a little easier. All right, this is my pork spare rib. It's a 5-pound rib and we'll start with it. Spare ribs out of the package. Now with pork spare ribs, pork ribs have a membrane on the back side. And you can cook your ribs with that membrane, but it makes them kind of chewy and hard to get apart. You'll often find that you have a large flap of meat on the inside of the rib cage. If it's really big, I recommend trimming it. This one is not that bad, so I'm going to leave it. So first thing we need to do is remove that membrane, this white membrane. And the way I like to do that is I like to get a knife on the edge of the membrane. You just peel up on it. You see that? Just get a knife on the edge of that membrane and you just peel. Once you get enough up, you just peel that membrane off. And the whole piece, if you do good, you should be able to pull that whole membrane right off of there. Just like that. Next portion is application of rub. I always use a little bit of olive oil. You just pour that on the meat, flip it over, get the other side. Make sure you get underneath, if there is that flap, get underneath there. Pour that olive oil all over, and this is gonna help the rubs stick. I like simple rubs, so I'm kind of a garlic salt, just regular salt, and black pepper sort of guy. I will use on the occasion rosemary, which I'm going to do on this particular one. It's important when you're dealing with this sort of stuff that you have a dirty hand and a clean hand. So the clean hand touches all the ingredients. Now with pork, you want to kind of take it easy on the salt because it's so thin in the meat department that a little bit of salt goes a long ways. People that do a lot of barbecue will often have their ratios pre-measured. I like the pepper just because I kind of like that kick. So I give it a healthy dose of pepper. Garlic salt, again it's a salt, so real light. I just do it for the garlic flavor. You can even use real garlic if you've got it. Grind it up, mash it in, put it on there. It tastes pretty good. And then rosemary, mainly for the texture, and it's got kind of a sweetness to it that I like on pork, and I also like rosemary a lot on beef. So if you do tri-tip or anything like that, rosemary is awesome on tri-tip. Okay, once the rub is on, we'll let this sit for, I like to let it sit for about a half an hour or so, and we'll go stick it on the fire. One of the things I think is really important when you're smoking pork spare ribs is that you have a water pan, which I've got going right there. The main reason is because pork spare ribs are notoriously thin and they don't hold a lot of moisture. So keeping that water pan in there keeps the moisture in the meat and makes them better in the end. One of the things that I have to deal with out here is I'm on kind of a fairly open area, so I get a lot of problems with wind, and it requires me to actually have to move my barbecue around in order to get my temperatures up. And just from moving the barbecue from the firebox facing, the wind was blowing from this direction, and just making it so that the wind travels through the firebox and out the chimney this way versus the other way it was faced, my temperature has gone up a good 100 degrees just by flipping around the barbecue. My fire's been going for about 45 minutes. I'm up to 300 degrees on the internal temp of the barbecue. So what I'm going to do is stick the ribs on the grill. Whenever you barbecue ribs, it's a good idea to put the bone side down and put the thick portion of the meat closest to the fire. That way it cooks more evenly, because it's always going to be warmer closer to the firebox than it is near the exhaust. So we'll put that lid down, and as they say, if you're looking, you ain't cooking. So we basically just let it go. Manage the fire and don't worry about what the meat's doing. Okay, the pork's been on for about an hour, and I've closed down the air vent to lower the temp because it kind of got a little warm when I added some wood. And it also has a dual effect. By closing down the air, the fire doesn't burn clean, so you get that extra smoky flavor in the meat. So that's what I'm going for right now. Alright, I'm about 2 hours into the cook now. This is where I'm going to employ a technique which is called the Texas crutch. Basically, we wrap the ribs in tin foil and we finish them off in tin foil. That allows all the juices to stay inside the tin foil. Again, keeps the meat super moist, and also kind of speeds up the cook time just a little bit. I'll show you how that works. And that's basically all there is to it. Now, one of the things that a lot of people like to do at this point is if you've got something like apple juice or water, and again, to maintain that moisture, when you first put the ribs on, some people like to spritz them with apple juice, like to spritz them with water. Right before you put them in the foil, they like to spritz them with water, apple juice. It just kind of keeps them moist, keeps the, kind of looks like if you use a sugary type base, like apple juice, kind of puts a glaze on it. These ribs, not doing that today. We've reached the point where the ribs are done. Still got a lot of water here in the pan, which is good. Got an owl hooting in the background. When your ribs get done, they become really pliable, like those are now. And you know, over time, when you start doing more and more of them, you'll know what a good set of ribs feels like when they're finished. But should be pliable, they shouldn't be firm feeling. Alright, we'll take those ribs in and let them set. Guys look pretty good. You can see that they've started to pull away from the bone here, which is good. You say on a good pair of ribs that if you can just give a little bit of a twist, you usually pull the bone right out with not much effort. So I think these babies look really good, really good. Let them rest and cut them up and serve them. Here's a quick Q view of the final thing. Nice smoke ring there. Good penetration. What do you think, Brooke? Yeah! Lachlan did a pretty good job of making these, didn't he? Let's enjoy. I need not use Today we're gonna do let's get started.